The sky had always been a mystery. People stared at it, wondered about it, and sometimes feared it. But no one really knew what was watching them back. High above the clouds, far beyond the reach of human sight, something ancient drifted quietly. It had been traveling for millions of years, crossing stars, gliding past worlds, and observing life in countless forms. This was the Erythians, the oldest known species in the galaxy. They were not like humans. They didn't eat or sleep in the way people did. They didn't fight for power or crave material things. Their existence was about understanding, learning, and silently ensuring that knowledge survived across the cosmos. Earth was just another planet in the vast universe. At first, it didn't seem remarkable. Oceans covered most of its surface. Winds carved mountains and deserts. Life struggled and thrived in cycles of creation and destruction. But as the Erythians drew closer, they sensed something different. There was energy here that was unlike anything they had seen before. It wasn't the energy of volcanoes or storms. It wasn't even the faint glow of electricity running through the soil. This energy was alive, strange, and dark in a way that was hard to describe. It hummed beneath the surface, hidden from human eyes, yet powerful enough to touch the stars. The Erythians watched quietly. They didn't rush to land. Instead, they hovered just above the atmosphere, sending out invisible probes that could record history and thoughts. Through these probes, they observed human civilization growing slowly, yet relentlessly. Humans were curious and creative. They built homes, discovered fire, and began to explore their world. Some humans were kind and compassionate, while others were cruel and selfish. But the Erythians noticed something even stranger. Every act of creation, every leap in knowledge, carried a shadow. Behind the inventions and discoveries, there was a force that grew quietly, almost unnoticed, feeding off greed, fear, and hidden desires. It took the Erythians centuries to understand humans fully. To them, time flowed differently. What humans called days, months, and years were just moments. In that stretch of observation, they saw empires rise and fall, forests cut down and regrow, and ideas spread across continents. And always, beneath the surface, the hidden energy pulsed. They realized that humans weren't alone in producing this force. It seemed to be connected to the very way humans thought and felt. The more people strived for power, the stronger it grew. The more fear and anger spread, the more it fed itself. The Erythians had encountered dangerous energies before, but this one was unique. It was alive, intelligent, and patient. Despite the danger, they were fascinated. Humans were unpredictable, and unpredictability was rare in the universe. Even the tiniest human actions could ripple across the planet and, in ways the Erythians didn't yet understand, influence the energy itself. Some humans were capable of incredible kindness, and their light seemed to push back against the darkness. Others, motivated by greed or hatred, made it grow. Watching humans was like reading a story that changed every day. No two chapters were the same, and the ending was uncertain. The Erythians began to study humans more closely. They didn't appear in front of people. Instead, they interacted through subtle signs, small visions, and moments that seemed like coincidence. A sudden feeling of inspiration might strike a painter. A scientist might have a sudden insight that changed the course of their work. Farmers might find their crops unusually fertile one season. All of these small touches were invisible threads that the Erythians wove through the lives of humans. They were careful not to interfere too much. Too much interference could change the natural course of human growth, and that was something the Erythians avoided at all costs. They also studied human emotions. Humans were messy, complicated, and often contradictory. They loved and hated in equal measure. They built machines to reach the stars, yet they struggled to care for their neighbors. They sought knowledge, but sometimes feared the truth. The Erythians found this fascinating. Every human thought, every choice, created a tiny spark in the world, and sometimes those sparks collided in ways that shaped entire societies. The hidden energy responded to these sparks, growing or shrinking depending on the intensity of human feelings. The more the Erythians observed, the more they realized how fragile humans were. They were strong in some ways, capable of great ingenuity, but fragile in others. A single disease, a single war, or even a small shift in climate could have devastating effects. Yet despite this fragility, humans kept moving forward. They created cities, wrote stories, and searched for meaning in the stars. It was this persistence that made the planet special. The Erythians had seen civilizations rise and fall countless times. But Earth's people had something different. They had hope. And hope was unpredictable, but the Erythians couldn't ignore the darkness. They began to detect signs that the hidden energy was more than just a passive force. It had memory. It could anticipate patterns. It seemed to be learning from humans, not just feeding on them. This revelation worried the Erythians. A force that could learn from humans could, in time, become uncontrollable. If left unchecked, it might spread beyond the planet, reaching other worlds and threatening life on a cosmic scale. They debated among themselves in silent thought, communicating in ways humans couldn't understand. Some argued that they should guide humans, helping them understand and control the energy before it became dangerous. Others feared that any interference could backfire, making humans dependent on the Erythians' guidance and altering the natural course of life on Earth. After much thought, they decided to continue observing, but to prepare for action if the energy began to grow beyond control. During this time, humans continued their lives, unaware of the invisible eyes watching them. People loved, fought, created, and destroyed, completely oblivious to the ancient beings hovering above them. Occasionally, someone would feel a strange intuition, an unexplainable sense of knowing, or a moment of clarity that seemed to come from nowhere. These moments were the Erythians' gentle touches, small nudges designed to test the limits of human potential. As years passed, the Erythians began to understand patterns. They saw cycles of growth and decay, hope and despair. They realized that the planet itself was alive in a way humans didn't fully comprehend. Life and energy were interconnected, and within this network, the hidden force pulsed, waiting for the right conditions to fully awaken. This knowledge made the Erythians cautious. They knew that staying too long on Earth could put them at risk. They also understood that humans might never fully grasp the danger until it was too late. Yet, they were not heartless observers. They found themselves drawn to human stories' small acts of courage, sacrifices made for others, and moments of unselfish love. These moments, fleeting as they were, seemed to push back against the darkness, creating brief pockets of light in an otherwise uncertain world. The Erythians recorded these stories, not just as data, but as lessons. Perhaps one day, these lessons might help humanity survive the dangers that were quietly building beneath their feet. By the time they had spent what humans would call decades observing Earth, the Erythians had grown deeply connected to the planet. They understood its beauty and its danger. They admired humans' creativity and resilience, but could not ignore the dark energy that lay hidden in the shadows. It was clear that Earth was more than just a simple world. It was a crucible, a place where light and dark fought silently, and where every human action could tip the balance in ways the Erythians could only guess at. And so, they waited. They continued to watch, silently recording and learning, until the day would come when they would have to make a decision, whether to intervene, to guide, or to escape. For now, the story of humans was still unfolding, and the oldest beings in the galaxy were content to be the quiet witnesses to a drama that had been millions of years in the making. As the Erythians continued their quiet observation of Earth, they began to notice patterns that they hadn't expected. Life on the planet was not just about survival or growth. There was something hidden, something that humans had never truly understood about themselves or the world around them. At first, it was subtle, a sudden disappearance of entire species. The way certain cities seemed to rise and fall in strange cycles, or the way human emotions sometimes influenced events in ways that should have been impossible. The Erythians realized that Earth held a secret, a deeper force that even humans themselves did not fully comprehend. The energy they had sensed before was growing stronger. It was not constant, but moved in waves, sometimes quiet and dormant, other times active and almost alive. It seemed to respond to human thought and action, reacting to fear, greed, and anger more than to joy or kindness. Every time humans built weapons, waged wars, or harmed each other, the energy pulsed and strengthened. It was as if the planet itself was recording human mistakes, storing them in a way that could be dangerous in the future. The Erythians were cautious. They had seen many worlds before, and they knew how dangerous it could be when a species unknowingly nurtured a destructive force. On some planets, such forces destroyed everything, leaving only barren land and silence. On others, it took centuries, but the result was the same: life would be extinguished. What made Earth unique was the complexity of its humans. They were capable of creating, but also of destruction in ways that were unpredictable. The Erythians had studied civilizations that were far more advanced technologically, yet none of them had such unpredictable energy tied to the consciousness of their inhabitants. One of the first things they noticed was how humans ignored signs that could have warned them. Strange weather patterns, sudden disappearances, inexplicable sicknesses. Humans often blamed these on chance or nature, never realizing there was something beneath it all. The Erythians observed scientists, explorers, and thinkers struggling to make sense of these mysteries. Some came close to discovering the truth, sensing that something beneath the surface of their world was influencing events. Yet no one could fully understand it. The energy was too subtle, too interwoven with the very thoughts and emotions of humans, to be detected easily. The Erythians began to probe deeper. They sent invisible tendrils of their consciousness into hidden places, caves, ancient ruins, even deep under the oceans. What they found shocked them. There were traces of life forms and energies that predated humanity by millions of years. Fossils showed creatures that should never have existed, buried in patterns that suggested a purposeful arrangement rather than random evolution. Stones and crystals seemed to hum faintly when the Erythians examined them, as if they contained memories of long-forgotten events. The planet itself was like a library, storing secrets far older than humans, or even most life forms in the galaxy. But the most alarming discovery came from observing human civilization itself. The Erythians realized that humans were unknowingly producing the energy. Every fear, every act of cruelty, every obsession with power made the force stronger. Even acts of extreme kindness could create ripples, but they did not diminish the overall strength of the energy. It was as if the darker side of human nature had a much stronger effect on the hidden force than the good side did. The Erythians began to understand that this energy was not just a natural occurrence, was connected to human consciousness in a fundamental way. They debated among themselves in the silence of thought. Some believed that humans could be guided, that if they could subtly influence key decisions, the energy could be controlled. Others were not so optimistic. They argued that the force had become too entwined with human behavior, and any interference could be dangerous. Humans were unpredictable, and their emotions were too volatile. The Erythians had faced dangerous forces before, but nothing as cunning and patient as this. It was as if the energy itself was alive, learning from humans, waiting for the right moment to grow beyond the planet. During this time, the Erythians also observed the human drive for knowledge. People were curious in ways that amazed even the oldest beings in the galaxy. They explored lands, experimented with fire, invented machines, and built structures that reached for the sky. And yet, even in their pursuit of progress, humans were creating small cracks in the balance of the world. Every new invention, every technological leap, seemed to feed the hidden energy in ways that humans could not yet see. It was a delicate balance, and one that the Erythians feared might tip toward disaster if left unchecked. Despite the danger, the Erythians found themselves fascinated by humans. They were messy, emotional, and often contradictory, but that was what made them so interesting. Humans were capable of both unimaginable cruelty and unimaginable love. They were capable of destroying entire forests, yet also planting seeds that could last centuries. They fought wars that killed millions, yet they also created art and music that inspired generations. It was this duality that made humans unique, and it was also the reason the hidden energy was so unpredictable. As they observed, the Erythians began to notice patterns in history. Human civilizations often rose and fell in cycles, and these cycles seemed connected to moments when the hidden energy surged. When societies became greedy or violent, disasters followed. When people worked together and cared for one another, there were periods of peace and prosperity. The Erythians realized that the energy was not just a passive force, it was almost like a mirror, reflecting the collective actions of humanity and amplifying their consequences. They also studied individual humans, who seemed to be more sensitive to the energy. Some people had visions or dreams that hinted at the truth beneath the surface of the world. Others had sudden insights that allowed them to invent things or solve problems in ways that seemed impossible. The Erythians realized that these individuals were like windows into the hidden energy, able to sense its presence without fully understanding it. They quietly guided these sensitive humans, nudging them toward ideas or actions that might help maintain balance, but always staying in the background. Despite their careful observation, the Erythians could see that the situation was growing dangerous. The hidden energy was stronger now than it had been when they first arrived. It pulsed beneath the surface of human consciousness, spreading quietly but steadily. If left unchecked, it could reach a point where it would no longer be influenced by humans or by the Erythians. It might escape Earth altogether, affecting other worlds in ways the Erythians could not predict. This realization caused concern among them. They had witnessed civilizations destroyed by forces far less intelligent and far less persistent than this one. The Erythians also noticed that humans were starting to uncover some of the planet's older secrets on their own. Archaeologists and explorers had begun discovering strange artifacts buried beneath the soil, remnants of life forms that seemed impossible. Ancient texts hinted at knowledge that humans could not fully comprehend, describing energies and forces beyond their understanding. These discoveries were fragmentary, but they indicated that humans might one day stumble upon the truth. The Erythians realized that time was becoming critical. They had to decide whether to intervene, to guide humanity more directly, or to prepare for what might come if the hidden energy grew beyond control. As they pondered this, the Erythians also began to understand human relationships in a new way. They saw how communities formed, how trust and betrayal shaped societies, and how individual choices could have consequences that lasted for generations. Every act of kindness, every act of cruelty, left an imprint not just on human lives, but on the hidden energy itself. It was almost as if the planet was alive in a way humans had never realized, reacting to their thoughts, actions, and emotions. The Erythians felt a strange connection to the people they watched, a mixture of admiration and concern. And so, they continued to observe, recording everything with precision and care. They documented patterns of human behavior, cycles of energy, and the interactions between the two. They watched as humans continued to explore, create, and fight, sometimes succeeding, sometimes failing. The Erythians knew that the story of humanity was far from over. Every day brought new challenges and new opportunities. Every choice made by humans rippled through the hidden energy, shaping the future in ways that were both subtle and profound that, by the time they had observed Earth for many centuries. The Erythians had learned one undeniable truth. Earth was special, but dangerous. It held a secret that could change the course of life across the galaxy if it was not handled carefully. Humans were capable of extraordinary things, but they were also capable of unimaginable destruction. The hidden energy tied to their consciousness was both a gift and a threat. And in the silent, watchful presence of the oldest beings in the galaxy, Earth continued its slow, uncertain dance, unaware of the quiet observers who had come to care for it and fear for it. At the same time, the Erythians knew that eventually they would have to make a choice. For now, they remained patient, continuing their quiet watch, waiting for the moment when the true nature of Earth's secret would demand a decision. Until then, they were content to be observers, silently documenting the story of. The Erythians had observed Earth for centuries, quietly recording every ripple of life, every surge of emotion, and every spark of creativity. Yet the deeper they looked, the more they realized that observation alone was no longer enough. The hidden energy that pulsed beneath the surface of the planet was growing stronger, responding to human fear, greed, and violence in ways that could no longer be ignored. It was no longer a distant curiosity. It was a potential threat, a force that could escape Earth and ripple across the galaxy if left unchecked. Among themselves, the Erythians began to debate. Some believed that humans could be guided, that subtle interventions might steer them away from the darkest impulses that fed the hidden energy. Others warned that any interference could backfire, causing unforeseen consequences. Humans were unpredictable, driven by emotions the Erythians could barely comprehend. Even small acts could have consequences that spiraled beyond expectation. The ethical dilemma weighed heavily on them. To act could alter the course of human evolution, but to remain passive could risk a cosmic disaster. They began to analyze human history more closely, looking for patterns in decisions, conflicts, and inventions. They studied wars, famines, and plagues, trying to understand how the hidden energy influenced events. Every time humans gave in to fear or selfishness, the energy pulsed and strengthened. Yet moments of collective kindness and selflessness also left their mark, creating faint, temporary breaks in the growing darkness. It became clear that the energy was intelligent in a way they had not fully realized. It learned from humans, adapting to their actions and evolving in response to their behavior. The Erythians tried to weigh the risks of intervention. If they acted too directly, humans might become dependent on them, losing the ability to learn and adapt on their own. Interference could also trigger panic or chaos, especially if the presence of extraterrestrial beings became known. On the other hand, doing nothing might allow the hidden energy to grow beyond control, potentially threatening not only Earth, but neighboring worlds as well. The stakes were enormous. Even beings as old and wise as the Erythians had rarely faced a dilemma of this magnitude. As they debated, they also focused on the individuals who seemed most sensitive to the hidden energy. Some humans had visions, unusual insights, or moments of clarity that allowed them to notice things others could not. These individuals seemed to sense the force beneath the surface, though none of them understood it fully. The Erythians observed how these humans struggled with the knowledge, feeling unease, curiosity, or even fear. Sometimes their intuition guided them to inventions or discoveries that shaped society in subtle ways. These humans were rare, but the Erythians began to wonder if nurturing them might help maintain balance without causing direct interference. But even as they considered this, the danger grew. The hidden energy began to manifest in ways that humans could not ignore. Strange weather events, unexplained natural disasters, and sudden shifts in ecosystems were occurring more frequently. Human civilizations began to sense that something was amiss, though they could not identify the source. Scientists and thinkers puzzled over anomalies that seemed to defy logic, while ordinary people reported feelings of unease, dreams of places they had never seen, and fleeting visions of things they could not explain. The Erythians realized that time was running out. The force was becoming too active to simply observe. The debate among the Erythians intensified. Some argued that humans could learn to control the energy on their own, given enough guidance and subtle nudges. Others feared that the intelligence of the energy had already surpassed human understanding, making intervention too risky. One group proposed leaving carefully hidden warnings in places humans might one day discover, planting seeds of knowledge that could help future generations survive. Another suggested that they might have to leave Earth entirely, retreating to preserve themselves from the growing danger. Despite their concerns, the Erythians felt a strange connection to humans. They admired the resilience, creativity, and complexity of the species. Humans were far from perfect. They fought, destroyed, and often failed, but they also inspired hope. Every act of kindness, every attempt to understand one another, left a small imprint on the hidden energy. For all its darkness, the energy responded, if only faintly, to the light within humans. The Erythians found themselves drawn to these moments, observing with fascination how small choices could ripple across entire civilizations. The ethical dilemma became more urgent when they observed humans on the verge of creating technologies that could inadvertently amplify the hidden energy. Scientific discoveries, while intended to improve life, sometimes had unforeseen consequences. Weapons became more powerful, communication spread ideas rapidly, and industrialization altered ecosystems. Each innovation, each leap forward, could unintentionally strengthen the hidden force. The Erythians recognized a pattern. Human advancement was linked to the growth of the energy. Without careful guidance, the consequences could be catastrophic. Yet intervening directly felt wrong. Humans had a right to grow and learn, even if that meant making mistakes. The Erythians had always believed in the preservation of knowledge, not control over life. They were observers and teachers, not rulers. Any direct interference could disrupt the natural flow of evolution, potentially robbing humans of their independence and ability to make choices. This tension weighed heavily on the oldest beings in the galaxy. They had faced countless dilemmas before, but none as complicated or morally ambiguous as this. Some Erythians proposed a compromise. They would subtly influence key moments, guiding humans without revealing themselves. They could amplify moments of kindness, creativity, and understanding while dampening the effects of fear and hatred. Others cautioned that even subtle interference might change history in ways they could not predict. The hidden energy was learning, adapting to human behavior. It could potentially sense manipulation and react in ways that were far beyond their control. The debate seemed endless, as every option carried risks and uncertainties. Meanwhile, the humans continued their lives, unaware of the ancient beings watching over them. People worked, loved, fought, and dreamed, completely oblivious to the forces at play beyond their understanding. Yet the subtle influence of the Erythians was present in small ways. A scientist might stumble upon the solution to a difficult problem. A farmer might find crops unusually fertile. A musician might feel a sudden inspiration. These small nudges were designed to maintain balance, but they could not prevent the hidden energy from growing entirely. The Erythians realized that time was running out. The hidden energy was becoming more active, responding not only to human thought, but to the very structure of society. Patterns of violence, inequality, and fear created strong pulses, while acts of unity and compassion only temporarily weakened its influence. The balance was delicate, and the Erythians knew that the longer they waited, the harder it would become to guide humanity without risking catastrophe. Ethical dilemma reached a climax when the Erythians observed a series of events that could trigger a massive surge in the hidden energy. Humans were on the verge of major conflicts and technological breakthroughs that could unknowingly feed the force. The Erythians debated feverishly, considering all possible outcomes. Some argued that intervention was necessary to prevent disaster. Others feared that interference could create consequences far worse than the energy itself. The decision weighed on them, as it would determine not only the future of Earth, but potentially the fate of countless other worlds. In the end, the Erythians understood one truth: they could not ignore what was happening. Humanity's potential for growth and destruction was intertwined with the hidden energy in ways that demanded careful attention. Yet any action carried risks, and there were no guarantees. The oldest beings in the galaxy, wise and patient for eons, now faced a choice that no being had faced before: act and risk altering the course of life itself, or remain silent and risk allowing a force beyond control to spread. As they deliberated, the humans continued their lives, unaware of the moral storm unfolding above them. People fell in love, built communities, created art, and struggled against hardship. Every choice, every emotion, every action had an unseen consequence on the hidden energy. The Erythians watched closely, understanding that the moment of decision was approaching. In the quiet of space, among stars that had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations, the oldest beings in the galaxy prepared for the moment that would determine the future of a world they had come to both admire and fear. And so, the Erythians remained poised between action and observation, caught in the tension between guidance and restraint. They had learned much from humans, but the greatest lesson had yet to come. The hidden energy was growing, and the time for a choice was near. Every heartbeat, every thought, every whisper of life on Earth carried weight. And as the planet continued to turn beneath them, the Erythians prepared for the moment when the balance would tip, when the ethical dilemma would demand a decision that could change the course of history forever. The Erythians had watched Earth for countless years, quietly observing the lives of humans and the strange hidden energy that pulsed beneath the surface of the planet. They had debated, considered, and analyzed every possible option. The moral dilemma had weighed heavily on them: intervene and risk altering the natural course of human life, or remain silent and allow the dangerous energy to grow unchecked. But as they observed more closely, the decision became unavoidable. The hidden energy was no longer dormant. It had begun to move, shifting in unpredictable ways, reaching levels that could threaten life far beyond Earth. The oldest beings in the galaxy knew that the time for passive observation had ended. Their decision was not made lightly. The Erythians understood that leaving Earth would mean abandoning a planet they had grown to admire. Humans, despite their flaws, were remarkable creatures. They struggled, fought, loved, and dreamed with a persistence that was both chaotic and beautiful. The Erythians had come to appreciate the resilience of the human spirit, the small acts of kindness that could ripple through generations, and the moments of ingenuity that pushed civilizations forward. Yet admiration could not outweigh the danger. The hidden energy had grown too strong, too unpredictable, and too intelligent. Staying meant risking not only themselves, but the balance of the universe beyond. Before departing, the Erythians made preparations. They moved quietly through the planet, leaving traces of their presence in subtle, hidden ways. These traces were not direct interventions, but messages for those humans who might one day be able to understand them. Ancient ruins, cryptic carvings, and faint impressions in stone were all left behind, encoded with wisdom and warnings. The Erythians hoped that one day humans would uncover these signs and perhaps learn to navigate the darkness that had always been a part of their world. These actions were their way of caring from a distance, ensuring that even in their absence, guidance might still be possible. As they prepared for departure, the Erythians reflected on the patterns they had observed over centuries. Human history was a tapestry of triumph and tragedy, creation and destruction. The hidden energy had influenced events quietly, shaping wars, innovations, and cultural shifts in ways humans could not perceive. The Erythians realized that their influence had always been limited. They could guide only subtly, never controlling outcomes. Even if they had wanted to stop humans from feeding the energy entirely, it would have been impossible. The energy was tied to the very essence of human thought, emotion, and consciousness. It was part of what made humans alive, complex, and unpredictable. The decision to leave was not a simple retreat. It was a measured withdrawal, executed with precision and care. The Erythians ensured that their departure left minimal traces of their presence in the physical world. They did not want to create fear, confusion, or reliance among humans. Their goal was to leave quietly, maintaining the delicate balance between guidance and independence. As they withdrew from the planet, they sent one last wave of observation, recording the state of the hidden energy, the patterns of human behavior, and the potential trajectories of the future. It was a silent farewell, a moment of reflection and hope, captured in the minds of beings who had long existed beyond time itself. Humans continued their lives, unaware of the evacuation happening just beyond their sight. People went about their routines, building cities, forming communities, and navigating the complexities of daily life. Some noticed strange coincidences, sudden inspirations, or unexplainable events, but no one knew the truth. The Erythians' subtle interventions remained hidden, influencing only what humans could perceive in ways that inspired curiosity rather than fear. Every small act of guidance was a reminder that life on Earth, though fragile, was worth preserving. The hidden energy, however, did not pause. It had sensed the shift in presence, though it could not understand it fully. It pulsed and expanded, responding to human activity with increasing intensity. The Erythians observed as it moved through ecosystems, influencing thoughts, decisions, and emotions. Fear, anger, and ambition fed its growth, while moments of unity and compassion created temporary reprieves. The balance was delicate, and the Erythians knew that humans would have to navigate this on their own. They had done all they could, and now it was up to the people of Earth to face the consequences and learn from the challenges before them. As they prepared to leave the planet entirely, the Erythians reflected on their own history. They were ancient, having witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations across the galaxy. They had seen worlds consumed by forces similar to the hidden energy on Earth, and they had learned the importance of timing, observation, and careful judgment. Their departure was not a sign of failure, but of wisdom. They understood that some forces could not be tamed, only respected and monitored. Leaving Earth was a difficult choice, but it was the choice that aligned with their principles and ensured the survival of both themselves and the wider universe. Before vanishing from the skies, the Erythians left one final imprint, a subtle network of knowledge embedded in natural formations, scattered across the planet in forests, mountains, and deserts. These hidden lessons were not direct instructions, but patterns of understanding, meant for humans who might one day perceive them. It was their final gift, a silent hope that humanity could rise to meet the challenges of the hidden energy without external control. In these quiet traces, the Erythians left a message of resilience, curiosity, and the importance of learning from the past. The departure itself was a spectacle, though invisible to human eyes. The Erythians withdrew into the void of space, moving beyond Earth's atmosphere and into the dark expanse of the galaxy. Their movements were deliberate and silent, leaving no disturbance, no warning, and no immediate evidence. They had mastered the art of leaving without being seen, a skill honed over millions of years. For the humans below, the world continued unchanged, as if nothing had shifted, yet the balance had been altered forever. Even as they left, the Erythians did not feel relief, only a solemn awareness. They had grown attached to the humans, fascinated by their ingenuity, resilience, and complexity. Observing humans had been a rare privilege, offering insight into a species that was unpredictable, flawed, and yet full of potential. They carried these memories with them, recording every pattern, every choice, and every ripple of emotion as part of the ongoing story of life in the universe. The lessons of Earth would remain with them, a reminder of both the fragility and the power of conscious life. As they disappeared into the vastness of space, the Erythians considered the future of the hidden energy. It remained on Earth, waiting, learning, and responding to human thought and action. They knew that it could be dangerous, even catastrophic, if left unchecked. But they also recognized that it was tied to what made humans alive: their choices, their emotions, and their capacity for growth. The energy was neither inherently evil nor wholly benevolent. It reflected the duality of humanity itself. And so, the Erythians left with a quiet hope that one day, humans might find balance, understanding, and wisdom to navigate the forces they could not yet see. Humans, in their daily lives, would encounter subtle reminders of the Erythians' presence for generations. Patterns in nature, inexplicable coincidences, and ancient artifacts scattered across the planet hinted at a hidden intelligence. Some humans would notice these anomalies, while others would dismiss them as chance. Yet the traces were there, a silent invitation to curiosity, discovery, and learning. It was a way for the Erythians to remain connected to Earth without interfering. A bridge of knowledge for those who sought it. In leaving Earth, the Erythians did more than evacuate. They set the stage for humanity's growth in a world shaped by forces beyond comprehension. The hidden energy remained, a challenge and a teacher, waiting to test the resilience, ingenuity, and morality of humans. And though the oldest beings in the galaxy were gone, their presence lingered in subtle ways, influencing the trajectory of the planet and leaving a faint, enduring hope that humanity could rise to meet the challenges ahead. The story of their departure was not one of fear or defeat, but of understanding, wisdom, and the recognition that sometimes the greatest acts of care are those that allow others to grow on their own. The Erythians had seen civilizations destroyed by forces they could not control. They had witnessed the consequences of intervention and inaction alike. In leaving, they embraced the lessons of patience, observation, and respect for the autonomy of life. Earth would now continue its journey, a world full of potential, danger, and wonder, guided only by the choices of those who lived upon it. And so, the oldest beings in the galaxy disappeared into the silent expanse, leaving Earth to its own devices. They carried with them the memory of a planet that had challenged, fascinated, and inspired them. The hidden energy pulsed quietly, responding to human thought and action, waiting for the choices that would define the future. And somewhere, in the unmeasured stretches of space, the Erythians watched, silently hoping that one day, the lessons they left behind would help humanity navigate the darkness and find the light within themselves. After the Erythians departed, Earth seemed, at first, as ordinary as it had always been. The sun rose and set, oceans lapped against shores, forests swayed in the wind, and humans went about their daily lives, completely unaware that the oldest beings in the galaxy had been silently observing them for centuries. Nothing appeared different to the naked eye, yet beneath the surface, the hidden energy continued its quiet, unpredictable rhythm. It pulsed in response to human thoughts, actions, and emotions, growing stronger with every fear, act of cruelty, or obsession with power. Yet it also responded, in smaller ways, to kindness, courage, and acts of understanding. For humans, life continued in all its chaos and wonder. Cities expanded, communities grew, and knowledge advanced. People explored space, experimented with technology, created art, and searched for meaning in their lives. But the hidden energy, invisible and unmeasurable, influenced the very fabric of these endeavors. It was subtle, yet powerful. Some humans felt it as unease, fleeting dreams, or sudden inspiration, while others encountered strange coincidences or discoveries that defied explanation. The planet had changed in ways that humans could not fully see, carrying the silent imprint of the Erythians' long observation and careful guidance. Without the Erythians' presence, humans faced the hidden energy without direct supervision. It became a mirror of their collective consciousness, reflecting both their brilliance and their darkness. Wars, greed, and fear amplified its strength, creating surges that reshaped ecosystems, societies, and even the trajectory of technological progress. Yet moments of unity, creativity, and compassion offered small reprieves, gentle reminders that the future was not set in stone. Every decision mattered, every choice left a ripple, and humanity slowly began to realize that the world was more interconnected than they had ever imagined. Over time, humans started uncovering hints of the Erythians' legacy. Ancient ruins, cryptic carvings, and subtle patterns embedded in natural formations revealed faint signs of intelligence far beyond human understanding. Archaeologists, explorers, and thinkers puzzled over these discoveries, feeling both awe and frustration at their inability to fully interpret the messages. Some dismissed the traces as coincidence, natural formations, or the imagination of past civilizations. Others felt a strange pull, an unexplainable curiosity that drove them to explore further, to question the world, and to seek answers that seemed just beyond reach. As centuries passed, humanity began to learn, slowly but steadily, how to coexist with the hidden energy. People developed philosophies, spiritual practices, and scientific methods to understand the subtle forces shaping their lives. They realized that fear and aggression amplified the energy, while cooperation, empathy, and mindfulness could create balance. Over time, societies experimented with new ways of living, attempting to minimize the harm caused by greed and violence, and to nurture the positive aspects of human nature. The lessons of the hidden energy became woven into cultures, religions, and knowledge systems, often in forms that humans did not consciously recognize as guidance. The hidden energy itself evolved alongside humanity. It was neither inherently good nor evil. It simply responded to what humans produced, reflecting the duality of their nature. It became a teacher without words, a force that challenged humans to confront their flaws, embrace their potential, and take responsibility for the consequences of their actions. Some humans came to sense it consciously, describing experiences of insight, dreams, or intuition that seemed to come from outside themselves. Others felt its presence subtly in moments of connection with nature, creativity, or community. The energy shaped lives in ways that were at once mysterious and profound. Humanity faced countless challenges in this new reality. Conflicts arose, mistakes were made, and tragedies occurred. The hidden energy responded to these events, sometimes magnifying their impact, sometimes offering unexpected opportunities for learning. Natural disasters, disease, and social upheavals tested resilience, while innovations in technology, art, and understanding created pathways toward growth. Humans learned that every action had weight, and that individual choices could resonate far beyond immediate circumstances. In this way, the hidden energy acted as both a reflection and a guide, shaping humanity in ways that were subtle, indirect, and deeply consequential. Though the Erythians were gone, their influence lingered. The patterns, traces, and wisdom they left behind remained embedded in the world, waiting for humans to discover and interpret them. Some individuals stumbled upon hidden messages in ancient artifacts or natural formations, experiencing flashes of understanding that hinted at the vast history of observation and care. These moments were rare and fleeting, yet they reminded humanity that they were part of a larger story, a story that extended beyond their planet and their comprehension. The Erythians had left Earth not out of indifference, but out of respect for humans' ability to learn, adapt, and grow. The departure of the Erythians also allowed humans to experience true independence. Without the presence of the oldest beings in the galaxy, humans had to rely on themselves, their communities, and their collective wisdom. They learned to innovate, adapt, and survive without guidance, and in doing so, they discovered resilience and creativity they might never have realized otherwise. The hidden energy became both a challenge and a teacher, prompting humans to take responsibility for their world and their future. The lessons were difficult, and the path was often uncertain. But the journey fostered growth in ways that observation alone could never provide in subtle ways. Humans began to sense the patterns left by the Erythians and the hidden energy. Philosophers, scientists, and spiritual leaders described principles of balance, awareness, and interconnectedness, often without realizing that these ideas mirrored the silent guidance of the ancient beings. Societies experimented with governance, cooperation, and sustainability, seeking ways to harmonize human ambition with the limitations of the natural world. Each small step forward was a reflection of the potential that the Erythians had once recognized, a testament to humanity's ability to rise to the challenges they faced. The hidden energy continued to shape history, sometimes gently, sometimes forcefully. It amplified the consequences of human behavior, reminding individuals and societies that their choices mattered. Fear, greed, and destruction strengthened it, creating waves that shaped the environment, culture, and technology. Compassion, understanding, and collaboration, though less powerful, left lasting imprints that could guide future generations. Humanity began to recognize that they were part of a complex system, one that required awareness, reflection, and conscious effort to navigate successfully. Over time, humans came to understand that the hidden energy was not something to be feared or worshipped, but something to be understood and respected. It became a symbol of the responsibility inherent in consciousness itself, the understanding that every thought, emotion, and action carried consequences beyond immediate perception. People developed practices and philosophies that encouraged mindfulness, cooperation, and long-term thinking. These practices were imperfect, often challenged by the darker impulses of human nature. Yet they represented progress in humanity's ongoing relationship with the unseen forces of their world as humans advanced. They began exploring the universe, spreading curiosity and knowledge beyond their planet. The lessons of Earth, shaped by the hidden energy and the subtle guidance of the Erythians, influenced the way they approached other worlds. Humanity carried with them the understanding that life was fragile, interconnected, and profoundly influenced by consciousness. They approached exploration with care, awareness, and curiosity, remembering, even if unconsciously, the unseen forces that had guided their own evolution. The Erythians, watching from the distance of space, observed humanity's progress with quiet pride and hope. Though they were no longer present, they continued to record the unfolding story, noting the resilience, creativity, and moral growth of humans. They had made the difficult choice to leave, trusting in humanity's ability to navigate challenges and learn from mistakes. The hidden energy remained on Earth, a teacher and mirror, ensuring that humans would continue to face the consequences of their actions while discovering the potential for greatness within themselves. In the end, Earth became a world of complexity and wonder, a place where life thrived despite challenges, where consciousness created both light and shadow, and where humans gradually learned to balance ambition with responsibility. The hidden energy remained, powerful and unpredictable, yet offering guidance to those who sought to understand it. Humanity's story continued, shaped by the choices they made, the lessons they learned, and the subtle legacy of beings who had once watched over them with care, patience, and quiet wisdom. The Erythians' presence had left an enduring impact, though invisible to most. Humans had inherited a world filled with mystery, challenge, and possibility. They had also inherited the responsibility of consciousness, the understanding that every action mattered. Every decision carried weight, and every individual had the power to influence the world in ways both seen and unseen. The lessons of the past, embedded in the hidden energy, and the subtle traces left by the Erythians would count.